coursework, you'll find Mary Cantwell in that chain somewhere, I guarantee you. We're so blessed to have her here. Mary Cantwell, take the new stage.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to Mount Vernon Presbyterian School, a place I've been able to blessedly call home for the last, I'm going to my 8th year. And I realized that I like this monitor right here. This is not how I teach, but I like to sit. I want to stand right here because it's a buffer between me and you. And I purposely did not put my glasses on today because that was my secret trick. Put a buffer between me and anyone in front of me. But I also realized there's this screen right here, and so please let me know if my height or whatnot gets in the way. And I'm going to try not to stand so tethered to this stand. So when I was asked to do a talk on a MoVe talk, Moments of Visible Empathy, I thought, of course, I will talk about someone else, and I will talk about my students, and I'll talk about my experience here at Mount Vernon, and it will all be about someone else. And I thought, well, that's a perfect thing. But I also realized that, for Moments of Visible Empathy, when we were able to come up with this, it was a true collaboration of, how can we shift this idea of a point of view to something bigger and more meaningful. And Bo actually, after several brainstorms of throwing out different phrases, he said MoVe, moments of visible empathy. And the idea in terms of, I guess, compare and contrast between a POV and a MoVe statement, point of view is really about someone else's, what they're looking at. But for me, moment of visible empathy, it's a connectedness. It's when you take the invisible and it becomes visible between two people. And so these 3 points that I would like to share today on my talk is moments of visible empathy of self, with presence, understanding, and self-connected. And if these three elements can exist between two people, I think that empathy will come about. And I think that is one of my core reasons of why I am so, I guess, passionate about design thinking, and why I think it's such an invaluable methodology, mindset, process that we can bring to our students, even in the younger years of kindergarten, that moment of visible empathy. So Facebook is having this thing about Throwback Thursdays, and so lately I've been dabbling into it, and I'm lucky enough that we have digitalized our family scrapbooks and photographs. And so I was thinking about this talk and thinking about self, and I thought, well, how can I explain presence and what that means to me, and share a bit about me. So I thought, well, of course, go back to when I was really, really little. I think this is about 4 weeks old. My mom, beautiful mother. I think it might have been my baptism. So the presence. My mom is pretty present in that shot right there. Whoever's taking the picture, and it could have been my 6'9" dad. He's very present. He's there. My brother Randy, he is present. He is looking. Now, about 3 or 4 months later, it was figured out why my sister, who's 17 months older than me, was crying that morning. So if you haven't been able to have it. We were present in that moment. Everyone was present. Even Mrs. Marie, who I think was actually in charge of the 17-month-old on the stairs, is now running away because obviously she sees what happens. But we have to be present among each other, and in this day and age of devices and traffic and information overload, and how do we filter it all? Presence is really important between two people, and again, in the arena, how present can we be? We're elbows and knees and whatnot. So presence for moments of visible empathy. Understanding. So the story I have to share today is about when I was in 3rd grade. I got really sick. I had a really bad fever, and it caused some issues, and turned out my hip and my right ankle, extreme pain. So they take me to my doctor. At that time, my pediatrician was named Dr. Hurt, over in
Oh, my.
Georgetown. So my mom and dad drive me, and I'm in a yellow little pajama jumper, and I'm in the back of the seat, and it's about 15 miles away. So we get to the doctor's, and they're like, "Okay, let's go," and I can't move. I mean, I'm in such excruciating pain. I had been sitting like that on the chair, and my dad was trying to get me to get out and moving me inch by inch, and it was just, tears. Finally, my dad gets me, and he just rips me out of the car. And at that moment, I knew that he didn't do that out of anger. I knew he didn't know what to do, because he had this third grade child, I don't know, when I was 8 years old, in immense pain. I was in agonizing pain, and he didn't know what to do. He felt helpless. And he had to do what he had to do. And the moment he did, he pulled me, he got me in his arms, and he scooped me up, and he brought me to the doctor's. And a few days later, as you see it, it's Christmas time, still in the little yellow jumper. The reason I bring this picture up in that previous story is just to give you a sort of a understanding of where I was. So in this present that I have in my hand, it is a toolbox. And it wasn't then, I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now, especially as a teacher. This present was probably the top 5 presents of my life. I was a tomboy, am a tomboy. And my mom and dad got me a tool set. And a few days ago, I couldn't walk or anything like that, but I took that toolbox and I went outside to down the driveway, and there's an old vacuum cleaner, and I just started taking it apart. And it was at that moment, again, not knowing as a child, but I now know it. That was one of the first moments in my learning experience that I got to use my hands. And it opened up an entire new learning moment for me. Before then, pen and paper. That was my learning experience, but I didn't know that with this toolbox, what that would do. Now, I'm not a master craftsman in any way, but it definitely put me on a track that had my parents not given me that toolbox, it would have come for much longer, later in my life. And I was a mediocre student, and I think had I not had that experience using my hands, I think I wouldn't have known that I had other options to being just a mediocre student. There's a lot more to that story, but again, understanding of that moment when my father ripped me out of the car and understanding why he did that, but now later on looking back at that picture, understanding what that present meant to me. Self-connected. A few years ago, Mount Vernon gave me a fellowship, and I got to go to Ecuador, and I got to work in a biological preserve. And I kept a travel diary, or travel journal. And one day I got to go and take the freshly squeezed milk that we had just squeezed from the cows. And I got to bring it down the mountain and sell to the local villagers. And only one person would do it. That was the job. And it was either that or, backbreaking work up the mountain. And I was like, no, I'll take the mule down. I can do it. My niece had just done it. She was 16 years old. She'd give me some stories. And so I wrote a blog post on it. And a lot was happening at that time in my life. But I thought, this would be a great way to show you self-connected in terms of my moments of visible empathy. I smell. I'm soaking in my sweat. My lungs are burning and my legs feel like jelly. My back could use a rest. However, with all that said, my morning with the mule was pretty awesome. I had heard stories about this particular mule from my niece, as she got to know him very well this past Tuesday. I was given a hard plastic tube switch to use to get the mule to move, but I'm kind to all animals, small, large, smelly, and stubborn. I made a vow to myself that beyond tapping the mule, that is as far as I would go to use the switch. I made friends with the mule, putting on my work gloves and petting his head, ears, and neck. All was grand as we traveled down the mountain to the market to sell the freshly squeezed milk. That is, until about 5 minutes into our walk. At that point, the mule just wanted to eat all the luscious greenery. I clicked my tongue, encouraged the repressed beast. I pulled the reins. I even tapped him with my hard plastic switch. He would not budge. It got very frustrating. The mule would start and stop continuing to eat as he pleased. I tried walking along him, like we were partners. Then from behind, as really he was the boss of me. Nothing seemed to do the trick. In reality, I would be completely embarrassed as I had a deadline to make and I was going to miss it because of my inability to control this large animal. Even Grace got it up and down the mountain. Granted, she beat the hell out of it, but she did. Yet my reality was not in the USA. It was in a cloud forest surrounded by foreign sounds and sights. My two choices were simple: force the mule to move and exhaust myself in the process, or let the mule move when he was ready and be in the moment of my reality. I chose the road less traveled by me, and that was to let the mule move when he was ready. And guess what? After several minutes of enjoying the peace of my environment, the mule began to walk down the mountain. Every once in a while, I would grab some grass and feed him along the way, yet he continued to walk. I was able to get down the mountain in an hour, record time too. I met the woman at the bottom and helped them unhook the 40 liters of milk off the mule, and the milk truck guy poured the contents into its holding tank. I went to the market, made some purchases for the volunteers and for me. I bought myself a Coke and chocolate wafers. The woman tried to get me to ride the mule to the top. I kindly refused, took the reins, and began my ascent to the top. As you know, the mule did it again. He stopped at an overlook and ate his veggies, while I had to make a choice about what to do. I couldn't have forced the issue. After all, I'd gotten the mule down the hill, so I could so easily get him up the hill. Nah, I let him be. And I got to really feel the breeze and enjoy the overlook. The climb was not fun, as I'm a weakling, and as my sister Mark would say, you ain't got any muscles, Mary. But I just kept putting one step in front of the other. Eventually, I found myself to the top. It took a lot longer than I had hoped, and I am content with that. Could I have gotten the mule to move faster? Easier? I'm not sure. I let go of trying to force my will on the mule, and in the end, the mule walked. The mule did a few other things too. He stopped a couple of times on the way up the mountain. He did not seem tired at all, yet each time he stopped, I took full advantage of the rest. He knew I needed a breather, even if I didn't. I liked the picture of being in front of the mule pulling the rope. As much as I was pulling, the mule was pushing me even more to keep moving forward. And that truly is what was going on. So moments of visible of empathy self. Again, I think if we can have presence and understanding and be self-connected, find something within us, we can connect with others. And that is really the true meaning to me of what design, the power of design thinking. But again, it's just the idea of being able to empathize with another. So again, thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you all and working with you these next few days. And again, thank you for this opportunity.